he's not bringing a clear mind.
That's that self-talk and narrative that you're talking about. I'm a huge believer in sort of visualizing sort of the way in which you want to behave, but then also what are the things that you need to be telling yourself and remembering to yourself in order to have that habit and that behavior. What with the world we live in, naturally there's so much. I think be interesting to hear your take on how psychology has probably evolved through athletes with the change of distractions. Now you've got that media, that attention that they potentially had at Sydney will now be social media, that you will have no control over how many tabloid papers they read, because you can stop them coming to the village, but you can't stop them turning their phones on. Totally. You can't stop them from finding out someone said something about their performance who's sitting behind a computer in Nebraska, and do you know what I mean? Like, it's nowhere near where you are. Yeah,
there's no firewall.
So that we live in a world of anxious thoughts, like with mental health as it is, not only just in sport but everywhere. The self-talk and the narrative that you see on a day. I think, again, like we spoke about, sometimes coaching is not even about the physical. It's about that little mindset that they're in. And I've seen that over the last 6 months, definitely, with the amount of kids that I've interacted with in sport. I look at it and go, it's your self-talk, it's the narrative, and then their parents might pick them up, and you hear the comments that the parents make to them, you go, okay, I can understand the narrative now. But what framework do you kind of run by in order to help people, I guess, change their narrative? Is there a way you believe that athletes can change their narrative and that self-talk of what they have to themselves?
Wow, that's a big one. At a more micro level, I guess it's stuff I put in mindful cricket. I think you can at least make people aware of how a reactive mind, that emotional reactivity, the distractions, will tend to make things more complicated and make it harder to make good decisions. Whereas when people are doing well, they'll tend to be more composed, they tend to be more focused in the now, they keep it simpler, and they tend to adapt. So I think helping people to realise that's a start, because then they can start to then understand, well, what is it that I do? What practices do I quickly trying to grab for my phone every time it pings, and so on, are practices that are going to increase the reactivity and the distraction. And modern life doesn't train us to be composed and focused, which is where I think mindfulness and practices like that can be very, very effective. Having said that, we are all psychologically deeply imprinted through our childhood. So we know unequivocally that we are a massive production of the significant people that we dealt with in the early parts of our lives, the environments that we've been in, and how we've learned to interpret the things that happen to us. So not surprisingly, if you put a parent in there and you have a parent who's critical, for example, you've been in an environment where you've had a critical parent. The critical parent then has helped you to interpret things as, this is difficult, this is challenging, I'm not good enough, or whatever. Those things are very difficult to change, and they are the ones that do require a bit more of a level of professional process to help an individual. And I guess I'm not just talking athletes here. I mean, I'm often doing this with business people, helping them to understand that what they've learned is an adaptive response. So their parents, for example, train them that when that happens, that's a threat. And because of that threat, you need to be aggressive in that situation. So when you then get aggressive in a business meeting, when you get challenged, that's actually a learned response. And there are some ways that you could unlearn that as well. And the first sign of that is to be aware of what that is. And that's there when, typically things like mindfulness training and so on, then start to give you some tools and some ways of doing it. Because I think what that helps is for people to realise that actually there's a difference between reacting and responding. If I react, it's a reflex. It's just something that I've just done, and I almost think afterwards. A response is, no, there is a moment. It's that, as Viktor Frankl said many years ago, it's that sort of greatest human freedom, the freedom to choose your response. So I think, I'm probably getting a bit psychological now, but I think the where the psychologist, I think, can sometimes play an amazingly powerful role with athletes, with coaches, and in the business world as well, is helping people to understand that early conditioning is adaptive and you can change it. But it's no different to changing your body. You're not going to go out to one gym workout and it's suddenly going to shift.
Yeah.
But in a concerted program, as you said, over 6 months, you can shift it. You can definitely shift it.
I'm so thankful that I actually entered into mindfulness. I mean, when I went and trained as a yoga teacher, I chose to take myself, very fortunately, to Hawaii to go and do it and really immerse myself. I cut myself off from the outside world a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it was for a month where I was fully immersed in this incredibly mindful experience. And literally over that month, I found the ways in which I was reacting to certain to certain instances, but the responses that I had were again programmed into me. It was my programming was wrong.
You've learned.
And I say wrong, but it is habits in which my parents had given to me. But what it did give me was the ability to step back, see myself from this third person view, without judgment, and just go, this is where I'm at right now, and this is what I have. Again, I have a choice. I have a choice whether I continue being this person, and I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to, in the attempt to change, I'm going to get things wrong.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. And I can't hide from that. Yeah. But I can, every time I get it wrong, I can reassess and go, I just want to try and get that wrong one less time. Yeah. I want to keep getting it wrong a little bit better. Yeah. And that for me has then molded my ability to respond to situations far differently. Yeah. Yeah. But not only that, help other people realize their responses to certain situations. And again, I think parents play such a critical role. They do play a critical role. You are blessed with your parents, and that environment. You are a product of your own environment. Yeah. And parents, I urge them to make that environment. If you want, especially you see a lot of dads who might want their kids to play sport and be an athlete, and both parents might want them to play sport. So create an environment where you know that it's their mindset that's going to get them there. The what will come, but you are building them as who they are. Yeah, exactly. It's a vital thing, and I'm thankful that mindfulness brought that for me. And we're almost bordering on therapy for people. I think that ability to again step back and see yourself for who you are, without judgment. Don't judge it. That's probably my biggest take out of it, is to not judge it. You can be frustrated in who you are, but if you can't change it right now. Exactly. But you can work on it. You can choose that response.